Okay, I'm back. What I got here tonight is a Ryobi BP42 backpack blower. The story on this is the recoil obviously is broken, and supposedly it runs, but not very well, and which is fine. You know, it was only 30 bucks. May have been 30 bucks too much, potentially, but you know, the reason why I say that is it does look a bit weathered. Also, I picked it up from an auto mechanic in his garage, so you know, if he can't fix it, I'm not sure somebody like me is going to have more success. He did try to clean out the carburetor. I'm not sure if he tried to rebuild it. So you know, I'm going to pop that open, see what it looks like in there. Might do a compression test as well, just to see what I'm dealing with. This is not a commercial grade blower by any means, and they do have a limited life, and this one looks like it may have been used a bit more than most. Also, I'm not sure what's going on with this here. I thought that plastic was supposed to be all green, so I can't quite tell if that's a factory finish on there or if something else is going on. Anyway, I'm gonna pop the cover off here and get to the recoil and see if there's any hope for that, and then if I can fix that, then I'll try to get it started to see what it sounds like. Has a good compression. All right, this recoil has 4 teeth. They don't retract like some you pull the cord and the teeth come out, and then when you let go of the cord, the teeth go back in. So this is a very simple recoil. It probably just has a spring and then obviously the coil for the rope to go on. So I'm gonna loosen that bolt and see if this thing maybe can free up with a little bit of attention. And then down here on the engine, let me show you this. When the engine starts spinning, the force moves these out of the way, which is what grabs the recoil. And then when it stops, it comes back so that you can crank it over. Anyway, they're all functioning just fine, so that's the inside. All right, good. I'm actually afraid to take this off because the spring, I'm not sure. There's probably going to be springs flying everywhere. Oh boy. Okay, so before rebuilding the carburetor, I did put some fuel in here. Notice something odd. There's two hoses here. One is supposed to be fuel going into the carburetor, and the other one's the overflow going back. And usually the bigger line is the one where the gas comes out of the tank and into the carb, which is this line. This line does not have a fuel filter on it. The small line does. So maybe somebody got them mixed up, or I don't know. So I am going to just hook up the small line to where it was, which is on the bottom of the carb. The fuel filter is plunged into the gas. I'm going to give it a few pumps and see if it primes through this line. All right, the primer bulb has a hole in it. So there's a few things here that are pointing to maybe the carb is not the problem, or it's in addition to other problems. So this broken or cut bulb is going to cause air to get into the system. So the carburetor is not going to run right at all. Also, I'm kind of holding my finger over the hole and still trying to prime it. Nothing's trying to come up the line with the fuel filter on it, which is the small line, which makes no sense to have that fuel filter on that small line. So I'm going to try the big line next. See if it primes through there. Yeah, it's not priming through either line. So let me see if I have another bulb and solve that problem, and then hopefully figure out this mystery. So I'll turn you back on shortly. The primer bulb's not even connected. Oh God. Okay, so I do not have a primer bulb replacement on hand, but what I do want to do is just plumb this up real quick to the broken bulb, and if I hold my hand over the hole, maybe we can get it to prime just enough to get some fuel in the carb and see if it kicks. Okay, so I just checked. To get a new carburetor for this, it's only $15. So I'm probably going to do that. It is priming now, but it's leaking right out the bottom. It's not going into the overflow tube. I could have this backwards. I did actually connect it to the bottom and tried priming it that way, and it will not go. It's like there's a check valve preventing it almost, or a blockage. I'm not sure which. Anyway, I wanted to check different carburetors that I had, see if maybe I could bolt one of these on just to see what the engine does or does not do. These are definitely not compatible. This here came off a Ryobi. This was a handheld blower, but it's a little bit smaller, the opening here. So it was a smaller engine, but looking at it, it looks like it might bolt on. So I'm gonna give that a try. Again, not looking to see that it runs well. I just want to see that it does something before I invest any more time into this. And this carburetor, by the way, was new. And this Ryobi that it came off of, I eventually threw away because it was having some mystery problems, and quite honestly, I probably already put $20 into it. And, I was just chasing some random little problem, which wasn't worth it. It's a Ryobi. They're cheap when they're new. Yeah, that's a lot smaller, so I'm not expecting much out of this. doing a quick ohms reading through the spark plug wire to the metal on the ignition coil. I'm getting 7.5 kilo ohms. I don't know the exact number on this, but that's high. I think it should be probably in the 4,000 range, give or take. So I'm thinking that this coil is bad. And I'm thinking most likely this carburetor is bad too. I know I need to get the new primer bulb, and honestly you can get the carburetor with this primer bulb for probably $15, or if I buy the primer bulb separately it might cost half that price, so I might as well just get the whole thing. So I will do that, and I'll price out what these coils go for. Unfortunately, they're usually around $50 or $60, and I don't want to spend that on this. So hopefully I can find a used one and give that a try. So if I can, you know, keep it to under probably $40, then I'll be good. But you know, it's gonna need a new fuel line, new ignition coil, new carburetor. If I do all that and still it doesn't work right, you know, I'm probably gonna have to call it at that point. It's just gonna be a money pit. So anyway, turn you back on once I get some parts. All right guys, welcome back. So it's been a few days. I don't know if I shared where I left off on this, but there was a kit available online for $25, which came with pretty much everything that I need. Has the primer bulb, ignition coil, and the carburetor. And separately, I got some more fuel line because I don't know, this is not going to be long enough. Also, I don't know of the quality of it. So I got a few different sizes here to pick from. So I think I have everything I need to put this machine back together. So let's get going. Okay, so to space this, I'm just going to use a business card. And one side is slightly, like these are not symmetrical. So you do need to use the magnet side, which has a slightly larger radius than the non-magnet side. And this is the magnet side. And the magnet pulls it to where it should be. So all I have to do is tighten it now. Yep, we got spark. Okay, so the fuel line that was going in here was pretty much petrified and previously spliced, and looks like they're mixing sizes a little bit. This one also seems to be the wrong size because it's completely loose, and if I were to tip it, fuel would definitely leak out of there. So anyway, I fed the first line in. This is going to be the intake, so I want it to go down. I want the hose to be long enough to basically go down to the bottom here. So I do need to pull a little bit more through. And this one you don't need to go in very far, it's just the fuel return, so probably an inch. or two. Okay, that's good. Okay, yeah, so I had it completely wrong. I'm not very experienced with this type of carburetor. So from what I just read, the primer bulb isn't supposed to push fuel through the carburetor, it's supposed to pull it through. So it actually is completely backwards to how I have it hooked up right now. So let me try to correct that problem. Theoretically, this thing will run now. Okay, so I'm just going to tighten this back on and give it a few tugs. All right, I'm going to try to start it now. If it does start, it's probably not going to run too well because the carburetor needs to be adjusted, and you know, I can't, the adjusting screws are right here, and actually they made it really difficult because you need a special tool to do it, but the fuel tank's kind of in the way, so I can't really secure everything until I've got it dialed in, and then I can finish putting it back together. So right now I'm really just checking to see if it starts. So let's see. Okay, not bad. Sounds good. Like I said, the carb is completely out of adjustment, but that's to be expected. So I will turn you back on when the sun's up and we can try this outside. Okay guys, another beautiful day here. A little bit of fog and frost, but that won't stop me. So I'm gonna start this leaf blower, let it warm up a little bit, and then adjust the high and low speed jets, as well as probably the idle screw. This requires a Pac-Man tool, and they call it that because it looks like Pac-Man, the bit that goes in. It's a specialty tool. You can get them pretty cheap. Sometimes they even come with a carburetor. You know, if you're looking to buy a carburetor like this, look for the ones that come with the carburetor, the gaskets, and the screwdriver, because they're probably not going to run perfectly on your machine. You're going to need to fine-tune it, so make sure you get that if you need it. Okay, so the engine's all set. Carburetor's dialed in. We have ignition, fuel lines are all set. The only thing left is this putting the airbox back on and re-securing the whole assembly to the backpack, which is held on by three screws. And quick recap too, as far as the carburetor adjustments go, there's lots of videos out there on how to do this, but there's 2 screws down here. The one closest to the engine is the low speed pilot jet, and the one on the outside is the high speed. So you start with the high speed and then do the low speed, and then you kind of go back and forth just to make sure. And then to slow the engine speed down at idle, I had to turn that out. One thing worth noting, you don't want to turn the screws so that the engine runs the fastest. It'll actually overheat the engine, so you want to turn it clockwise until it starts slowing down because it's starving for gas, and then turn it back. At some point it'll peak out in an engine speed, and when that happens you do want to turn it a little bit past, which will slow it down a teeny bit and also make it so the engine won't overheat or blow itself up. Anyway, that's pretty much it. You know, I might turn you back on for the final reassembly. I guess you'll know in a minute if I did or not, but if I don't, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching.